All right, we are recording, and welcome everybody to Woo Woo Wednesday Bend the Matrix. I'm really extremely excited to share this material for you because this really is an accumulation of a lot of information. Some of you have met me. I know there's a lot of people who are coming on board now who have never met me. Maybe you've just found out about me from a friend, or something like that. You're just discovering circle evolution. So I just wanted to talk a little bit up at the top why you should go on this journey with me, because there is definitely going to be information that we share, that we talk about in this class, that's going to challenge your mind, and at times that can be, well, quite challenging. So I want you to feel comfortable going on this journey with me, and at moments, really surrendering that mind control so you can embrace the potentialities here of quote unquote bending the matrix. Because doing this kind of work is about getting out of your mind. It is about getting out of the limitation of your mind, the inhibition of your mind, the control of your mind, and allowing new possibilities to happen. And this does generate defenses in the mind. It does generate resistance and act outs of the mind, and you will quite possibly get triggered along the way by stuff that I say, by stuff that we talk about, and it may be in contradiction to other teachings that you've received, other spiritual teachers, other whatever, experts, whatever, I don't care. But so I'm just going to invite you, instead of like getting into a mind fight about this, like, is she right? Isn't she right? Who should I believe? I have this voice for the mind. It's like this annoying, it's like a teenage boy. Is she right? Does she know what she's talking about? Is she really does she really have this going on? Or, if you're starting to go into that, just recognize that could be the mind's resistance. And you don't actually have to answer that question in this work today. You don't actually have to, or over this course of 6 weeks, you don't have to answer, that's right, John, you don't have to answer whether what I'm saying is true or false, or right or wrong. This process of dissolving your mind will eventually bring you into your own knowingness of this, or your knowingness of how you're going to work with the material that I'm going to share. And so I do have this mantra that some of you who obviously have been with me before, maybe are going through the 5D open door, moving on to the 5D grid program or the authentic positivity program, know that we just use this phrase, I love and accept the part of me that. And that is such a powerful resistance dissolver. And it's also really about you coming into oneness with you, which is really the nature of this game. I'm not teaching anything here to like manipulate you or control you or make you not you. What I'm going to be teaching you is to become more you, more of who you are, more of the powerful creative being that you are. And you're going to use this mantra in various forms. I love and accept the part of me that. So if you're feeling resistance to what I'm saying, instead of being like, is that true? Or, that doesn't line up with, that doesn't line up with like Abraham-Hicks's teachings, or that doesn't line up with whoever, what my therapist said, whatever, I don't care. You're just going to say, I love and accept the part of me that doesn't know how this lines up with what I already believe, or I love and accept the part of me that feels conflict about this piece of teaching, or I love and accept the part of me that feels triggered. And as John said here, I love and accept the part of me that will get triggered by anything said here, because that's the point of this class, is to push your mind's threshold. And listen, some of you won't get triggered. Some of you will be already like, I kind of already know this stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter. Hopefully we're going to take you further and more deeply into this journey. And this particular program is for you to actually really work on something, that is important to you. We started the sorry, I just got slightly distracted by whether I'm correctly recording my recording here. But you can all hear me, right? Yes. So we started it to introduce these ideas at the end of moving on to the 5D grid boot camp. And this class, we're really going to get into it. We're really going to get into how you use those tools practically. And as we do this program, I am going to refer you to other programs that already cover things more in depth. And so let's talk about the whole by donation thing. I have been, and why you should be listening to me, as you can find out on my website, or listen to Coming Out of the Cosmic Closet, or a whole bunch of other ways to find, or some of you found me from the Gaia TV show Interview with ED. I had an event 16 years ago. I made connection with these beings, the Circle of Light. I've been channeling them for 16 years. I have a huge reservoir of information has come through over 16 years, working one-on-one with people, doing these conference calls every week, pretty much for probably 14 years. We have this massive library, which is just the most beautiful resource of like incredible stuff that you can access. And this program is really to synergize all this information, because even when I work with clients, there is information that will come through for a client, a specific client, because of what they're doing, what they're here for on the planet for at this time, that doesn't come through the conference calls, or doesn't come through as in greater detail, that doesn't come through for other clients. So I'm just gathering all this information and putting it together. And the other thing is, I'm just being like the guinea pig for the Circle of Light as well for 16 years, because I am also a physical person that takes in these teachings, and together we find these tools. So often what happens is, information will start coming in, and then I will go through some personal story that's incredibly challenging, and I'll be working to find the resistance within myself, and it sort of unfolds this next level of teachings. So my mum calling me. My mother is my stalker. She's calling me. Decline. So all of this information comes in, and I go through these processes to find what works in the physical body, what works as a human being to dissolve this resistance to our broader consciousness. And though that my experiences become synergized in as part of the development of the tools, as well as the work that we do with one-on-one clients. So these tools that I'm teaching have been worked by me. They've been worked by clients. They have been tried and tested, and it is one system of working with energy that has a lot in it. A lot in it. So this brings me to the donation system. Over the years, I've spent so much time like, what do I charge people? What's right? What can people afford? I feel extremely passionate that this information should be available to everybody, not just the wealthy who have already tapped into their abundance in some way that they can pay a huge amount for a training. That has been a massive part of just why I have created so many programs, why I've created so many ways to access the Circle of Light, why you might even be confused about all the different ways I've created to access the Circle of Light, all the different programs. But I've spent so much time thinking about how do I balance making this information accessible and then just supporting my life and having a good life myself, because I have done a huge amount of work to produce all of this and to do this. And so I created the donation system so people could access the material. But I also really ask that people value this material, which is why, you know, I'm sharing with you at the top that I have personally gone through a lot. Like so many consciousness cracking initiations, literally, where I have experienced the suffering of all of humanity all at once, which is an incredibly painful experience, which helped crack me into the all consciousness. So I really do want you to value my contribution to this work. And when you are looking at the donation system, I want you to bear in mind that is a part of it. And the 3 tiers that I created are for you to get a sense of where you are within that financial realm yourself, and to think about when you're making those donations, that I set them one for super low income, one for like middle income, and one for if you're like cashed up and you want to be a patron for people who are lower income to support this program, and to find yourself in there and to really appreciate the value. But I don't even expect you to put forward that value immediately. I want you to do this program. I want you to come on this journey with me, and I want you to assess that value, you know, as you come to the end of the program, or even in weeks following. And I have set up this sort of bonus level. If you donate $250 at whatever point you donate, that you will get access to the permanent boot camp. You will most likely, I'm not officially making this a bonus yet, but get a one-on-one session with me in the Circle of Light. It just depends on, maybe I'll have a limit on how many people can actually do that. You also get access to the Facebook group, where I can answer more questions, because I can't answer personal emails about this material. You can ask during the program, and I'll try and get to as many answers as we can during the program. And also just trust that you will get your answers during the program, that you will either get them verbally from me, or that you will get them energetically in some way, because the words and what I verbally teach are only going to be part of what happens in this crucible. So yes, but just please value this, because a lot has gone into this, and value it for yourself. Because my other thing about when people when they don't pay for things, they often don't value it. It's part of the human psychology that like you're not, if you don't invest in this in yourself in some way, you're not going to show up for the full classes, or you're not going to listen to the material again. You'll be like, well, I only spent like $5 on that. Like, why should I now apply these tools to myself? I'm giving you tools to change your reality. And they are tools that require work as well. So bending the matrix, if you are going to really take this on board, requires work. It requires you going into the energy field. It requires you feeling into the energy of your reality. It requires doing purification work, because I think that aspect of the labor of it is part of your intent to really shift reality in a big way. Because we're not just talking about I mean, we are. I mean, you can bend the matrix on small things, like, you know, like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. In fact, the circle, I think they're even trying to stop me from saying that. They don't want me to limit it. Okay, so, but the point is, bending the matrix, if you want to use it on big picture stories, requires work. And so the devotion to the practice is your other side of the investment on this. And I just feel like there's some kind of correlation that you will take this material seriously if you invest in it in some way, which means you know, all these resources that I'm providing, please use them. Please take, even though this is by donation, this is like a really valuable training with where a lot has gone into it. So, all right. So another thing I want to talk about is your ability to process this information, because a lot of this information is going to challenge your mind. You may find that you experience one of many different sort of mind meltdowns that will happen along the way, which is just resisting the information, getting distracted about whether like what is this chick talking about, you know, like am I legit, whatever, getting distracted, getting bored. But the other big one is that people often go into a trance-like state when they listen to these teachings, that you often go into fall asleep, pass out, can't keep up, start getting confused. Even I'm getting confused sometimes as I'm teaching it, as the energies start coming in. So just know that you are, because this information is coming through me verbally, because it is coming in energetically as well, you may be getting short-circuited in order for this information to go in at a subconscious or unconscious level first. Because as this information comes in on this more unconscious level, it can start affecting change where it needs to. Because if your mind, as I start introducing ideas, or as we start introducing ideas through this program, your mind starts getting resistant to it, being like, what's this chick talking about? It might, you know, your energy and your expanded consciousness may want to knock you out, so your resistant mind can't get in the way of receiving this information and taking it in on a level where you can actually use it. So this is why you will be sent the recordings of this program. So if you do pass out during this program, it doesn't mean it isn't valuable. It doesn't mean, in fact, it might be a good sign if you're passing out during this program. It means that it's going in on some level that you need it to go in on. And then you can listen to it again later with the recordings. When you feel drawn to you might feel drawn to this material in 3 months. You might be like, you know what, I'm going to listen to that crazy chick's program again. And that will be the time for you to perhaps receive the information on a more conscious level, where it can now be absorbed by you, like as a more of a thinking practice, as a more of a conscious thinking practice. So these are things to bear in mind as you're going through this, in order to gain the most from this experience, that something within you decided for you to sign up for this. And some of this stuff might be, as I'm teaching it, might be a little further ahead from where your conscious mind is at. But your soul consciousness brought you here and got you signed up. And there is something that I have to offer you here, and something that the circle has to offer you here that is part of your expansion and your growth, even if it's just the energy downloads that you get by showing up and falling asleep during this program. It's going where it needs to go, and it's valuable. So that being said, perhaps we will just unmute. Actually, do we want to do it? I don't know if we want to do that. No, I think we'll save. I'm actually really feeling the circle like pushing in. So even though I had things planned, I think they want to come in and speak straight up and do a little, maybe they want to, yeah, okay. I think they want to take over the show. So in case you haven't met the circle yet or haven't heard it, these are the beings that have been channeling for 16 years. And and they are the ones that where these teachings come from. So just know that this isn't me just like, oh, this sounds like a great idea. The foundation of the teachings comes from the circle. So I guess I'm going to bring them in and have them say something. Hi, yes, indeed, dear ones, we are here and we are most delighted to make connection with you here on another magnificent day in your earth plane. It's always a great delight for us to come forward and to participate in your joyful, creative experience of life. We are coming forward and we're just going to take a couple more moments to tune in here a little bit more because the channel wasn't expecting our arrival quite this soon. So as we begin to just tune in a little more, we want to reiterate what the channel was speaking about in terms of using the love and acceptance to dissolve resistance. What we've decided to do here at the top is to create an energetic crucible for this program, even before the specific teachings start to come forward. So just take a moment, dear ones, to now just relax. And just begin by bringing your attention into your heart centers. Being seated in the heart is the most vital factor at this time. Because you are going to be receiving tools that are extremely powerful, dear ones, you want to be anchored fully in the heart as you use these. Because the heart will guide you through, particularly when the mind becomes activated by the resistance that will come up to these ideas, and as you are even pushing your matrix of reality. And you really want to build this muscle of dropping into the heart when the mind has moved into any sort of chaotic psychological state, any kind of churning, any kind of confusion, indecision, doubt, uncertainty, suspicion. There are times that you may feel a little out of your mind, and that really is the point, but it can also be very uncomfortable. So you want to make your heart the anchor spot where you will return when you notice that you have moved into the state of the psychological mind. The mind is here now really just to execute the details of your manifestation. What we mean by that is, for example, how does Georgia use this Zoom program? That is for the mind to figure out, to determine. But whether she should or shouldn't do this program, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to share this information, will people like her or won't people like her for sharing this information? That is the psychological mind. And developing your greater power to witness what state your mind is in is a very essential part of going on this journey. And if you have discovered that you are in psychological mind, you will come into your heart. You will surrender the uh, the mayhem of the mind and the energy that is in the mayhem of the mind to the heart and anchor there. And so as we begin now, we're just going to work with all of your heart centers to bring greater energetic power into the heart center, so it becomes a stronger magnet for your consciousness, particularly those of you who are very, what we might call, mind identified. If you are a sort of a very clever person, if you are a smart person, if you are somebody who uses your mind a lot, if you are somebody who uses the analytical mind a lot for your job, for your career, for important things, for things where you have received reward or accomplishment or anything like that, you can be quite mind identified, and it takes a little bit more work to become clear on when you are in psychological mind versus mind as a tool. And Georgia has sent out these resources to help you understand this in the ebook. And you really want to have a good look at that, so you can start recognizing the sort of indicators of the psychological mind and the psychological body mind. So other ways that you might start experiencing resistance is in physical states in the body: pressure, pain, tension, uncomfortable sensations in the body. This is where the mind is operating through the body, bringing you discomfort. Perhaps the nervous system may be activated. And we shared and talk a lot about that in the moving on to the 5D grid boot camp, about biological resistance to these changes. So that is another resource where you can learn more in depth about that portion of this puzzle of transcending the mind matrix. But right now, just keep being focused and anchored in the heart. And we're amplifying the energy of the heart blueprint. And this will make it easier for you to be attracted to your heart, easier to be reminded to go into the heart, easier to feel your heart, easier to use your heart as a sanctuary away from the mind and as the seat of the most powerful creative experience you could enjoy in this life. There are two realities being generated: one from the mind with all its limitation, all its nonsense, and one from the heart, seated in the unconditional love of your true nature, the infinite abundance of your true nature, and the infinite creative power of your true nature. And your mind may have a lot of resistance to doing something as simple as just going into the heart. It can be a challenge to move from being mind identified to becoming what Georgia likes to joke as a heart bimbo. Just someone who just drops into the heart and everything's okay. The mind does like to keep things very complicated because that's its job. And you don't want to really demonize the mind for trying to do its job. That's why you're just going to keep using that love and acceptance when the mind starts to act out with its resistance. So whether it is pressure, pain, tension in the body, whether it is confusion, doubt, whether it is just being and feeling distracted. You're just going to love and accept the part of you that is doing that. Don't get into a fight, and just gently bring yourself back into your heart. Bring yourself back into your heart to receive this material as it is being shared with you here. So we just wanted to pop in to do that heart anchoring, and we'll be back a little bit later on, but we're going to let Georgia continue teaching some of the nuts and bolts of this in terms of how it's expressed in the physical reality, because that is where she exists. So we will see you soon. All right, so that is the circle. All right, so we will start to progress now through what we're going to cover here. And I'm going to try and screen share my PowerPoint presentation that I have created. And hopefully that is going to share, and and you get that. All right. So, bend the matrix. Woohoo! Here we go. And we're going to cover as much as that we can. So we've had the introduction of who I am. Oh, another thing I want to do to start again is that we're just going to do a little bit of projection work off me now, because again, one of the ways that the mind will resist information that it is that's pushing it beyond its comfort zone is to have a bunch of projections about me, the teacher, and the circle of light. And they can be positive projections, they can be negative projections. It doesn't matter. If there's some kind of form of projection, they're sort of creating, it's just like a funky energy. So what I want everybody to do now is we're just going to work with the projections on me and the projections on money as well, the stuff I talked about money. And this is just going to help open up the energy field a little bit more. So the first thing you want to do is just focus on me, Georgia, and want you to just become aware of any quote unquote negative projections that you might have on me right now, because I'm just your creation here to deliver the information to you in a conscious way. You have created me, so I am your projection. So we want to just dissolve anything that's creating resistance between you and me, and that can be either a negative projection or also even having me or an idea of me or the circle of light up on some kind of pedestal as well. The energy that you should have with me as a person is like, yeah, like appreciate what I've done as a human. It's kind of like a respect, but having me or even the circle of light up on some kind of pedestal from which I could easily fall by saying or doing something that you don't like, or that triggers you, or having the circle of light on some kind of pedestal actually keeps you in separation from the teachings. So first of all, just everything that I've said or however I'm presenting to you right now, just look in. Are you experiencing any negative projection towards me? And you just want to love and accept the part of you that is that negative projection. So say it's like, oh, like whatever, like I think this chick is up herself. Something like Australians would say a lot. So you just go, I love, and in your head to yourself, I love and accept the part of me that's up myself. That means like up yourself means like you think you're too good or something like that. But whatever it is, so I'm just picking silly things. But perhaps it's that like this chick is too silly. She's not delivering this material with real gravitas. So I love and accept the part of me that is too silly. I love and accept the part of me that believes she is too silly. So just take a few moments with your pulling off those negative projections. And then you can also do the positive projections, like, and you can do it with the circle of light and me. So if you're like a huge fan of the circle of light and you're like, oh, the circle of light are really amazing, then go, I love and accept the part of me that is amazing. I love and accept the part of me that believes the circle of light is amazing. Wonderful. And let's just do a little bit of work around the idea of the money stuff as well. So as I was talking about the money and the donations, you know, that might have started bringing up some feelings for you about, like, what's her motivation? Or I'm not even saying that you would be thinking that like this sort of suspiciously, but it might pass through your head. Or it could even be like you feel like guilty that you haven't donated more yet, or you feel like whatever, I don't even care, like whatever. So just sit with your energy around the money projection, whatever it is, and just start to love and accept it. Wonderful, because what that does is it just kind of neutralizes our field as we're working together. Of course, you know, money's also just kind of a really charged subject, and it's a lot of it is connected to the survival mind, and so that can bring up a lot of stuff for people. So, you know, whenever I bring it up, if you start feeling or whatever, you're just going to love and accept that. Because the other thing about working with projections on money, and even as I'm saying, you know, value this program and reflect that in your donations. If you have fear or resistance around money and about spending it on this, likely you have projections around money and spending it on anything that feels valuable to you. So let's use this program to start to dissolve your resistance around money. So whenever you see me mention donations, just look at your reactions, start loving and accepting it. And so it can start to open up your money flows more as well by dissolving the framework of resistance around it. Alrighty, so moving on. What is bending the matrix? So here's some basic principles that we're going to work with. Actually, going to move to the next slide and go more detail into this. What is bending the matrix? So essentially, bending the matrix is landing your consciousness in the parallel reality where what you want is already happening. And you do this by dissolving the resistance that lies between lies between the current parallel reality that you're in and the one you want to be in. And resistance can be personal. It can be as simple as a belief structure. It can be multi-dimensional, meaning it's resistance that's coming in from your past and future life selves, that sort of thing. And it can be resistance that's collective, that's archetypal. I can see a few people are like writing stuff in the chat, so I just want to check what's going on over there, make sure I'm not missing something important. Like, oh my God, okay, you're seeing the wrong PowerPoint projection. Thank you. That's my there's a little bit of resistance right there. Okay, let's just try and make sure. Why are you not seeing that one? Okay, maybe I'm not supposed to show it. Anyway, we can start talking about it this way. The PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint projection will be a part of the final boot camp, just so you know that. And I'll work on my my screen sharing technique since before the next class. So let's talk about parallel realities, because this is like a really important part. So here you are in whatever parallel reality you're in, and so you're in this parallel reality. Let's just say this parallel reality is whatever. Someone type in a parallel reality that they don't want to be in, or a situation that they don't want to be in. No, you don't have to do that. Let's just say in this parallel reality, you have bad health. That's a common issue. It's a common aspect of people who are on the mastery pathway, is to have different kind of health conditions and that sort of stuff. And of course, we've done a lot of work with that, and a lot of it is about resistance in the body-mind system. So, and it's a good one to talk about, because it's, yeah, and actually I'm going to talk about that.
I can learn to understand you much.
Here you are in your parallel reality where you've got like bad health, and you want to get on over, actually do this, to this parallel reality where you are so healthy and happy. So here we're sad, here we're sad, and here we're, oh, so happy. So how do we get from here to over here? So these lines that I'm drawing here are kind of like what I would call the veils of resistance that are lying in the way of you just experiencing your consciousness in this parallel reality. Because what you experience as life is just where you are experiencing your consciousness, right? Where you are seated. And that's why we talk about the importance of seating in the heart. So you start seating yourself in the consciousness that your heart, or the experience that your heart consciousness is creating for you, rather than up here in the nutty mind with all the issues. So as you're doing this work, one of the things to understand, and it's a really important part of this work, is that you do need to have what I call sort of spiritual and emotional courage to do this matrix bending work, because going through the parallel realities means you have to go into this resistance in order to get through it. You know, the only way through the illusion is through. And part of that journey, and going through the journey of expansion, I really need two whiteboards to explain this at the same time, but is that you're going to gather energy along the way through going into the energy that's in the illusion. So, so as you start this work, you're also building up a bigger energy field every time you go into illusion. And this is why positive thinking is a great thing, but it really has its limitations in terms of changing your reality. And what people are really wanting is to have that authentically positive feeling that you have when you're in a state of expansion. But when you're using some form of suppression, you are not in a genuinely positive state. And that's why you've got the ebook, Authentic Positivity System, to read and catch up on all of that aspect, because it's really, really important. So when you start working with this, some of the veils of illusion are quite thin. So it might be just a personal belief structure that you need to change in order to pop through to your next level. And there might not be that much energy in that first veil. There might not be that much resistance in that first veil, exactly what I just said, because it's just a personal choice, or it's just something from this life, or it's just a simple personal belief structure. And one of those personal belief structures can be just simply from going, I don't believe this can happen, to I'm open to believing that this can happen. Just a simple pivot there. I don't believe, I don't believe I can bend the matrix of reality, to I'm open to there's a possibility that I could be able to bend the matrix of reality. Okay, that's just a simple shift there. uh, um, uh, to, um, to dissolve this veil here. So now you've gone from, I don't believe any of this, I don't believe any of this can work, to I'm open to believing that this can work. And you've dissolved a veil. We're one step closer. Now you've come to a bit of a thicker veil, because that was just a pretty simple one. This one's a little bit thicker, where it's really to do with deeper levels of belief structures that you may have that that are informed by, you know, the history of your life, really, and the programming that you received from your childhood, imprinting, all of that stuff. And that might have more energy in it than that simple first little step. Oh my God, the circle of moving in again. I guess I want to take over the show again. So just know that when you hit this next veil, there's going to be more energy in it. And as you move into working with the energy of resistance, there's going to be more energy releasing through here. And this is where you might start feeling more of what you haven't allowed yourself to feel before. And that's why I'm saying it can require more emotional courage to allow yourself to, what I call, get comfortable with the uncomfortable feelings. Because if you have, say, an unconscious reservoir of grief that is holding you in this reality, and you are using your suppressive body-mind system to resist that grief, part of getting through to this next level is that you may have to feel and experience some of that grief as part of the processing of it. So that's why I'm saying this work requires emotional courage, and it requires the ability for you to go into non-resistance and non-judgment of these emotions as you're working with them. So again, we use the love and acceptance then, and just being with the energy of experiences. All right, the circle are really moving in here again, so they obviously want to take over and do more attunement here, or talk about stuff. But the next veil, which can have even more energy, is collective beliefs. And if you really want to bend the matrix on a big way, change big storylines, then you're going to start going into the much bigger frameworks, which is the collective beliefs. And there's a lot more energy in those collective beliefs. And so once again, wanting to change a bigger storyline means being energetically prepared to kind of take on the energy of the broader frameworks. So that's something that to bear in mind, that as you're using these tools, you might not want to go with, as someone's mentioned here, you might not want to go to trying to change a big story like COVID-19 as your first experiment on bending the matrix, as tempting as it might be. You don't want to, you might not be energetically prepared yet to take on the energy that is invested in a big storyline like COVID-19. And I'm actually going to recommend for this program that you don't choose COVID-19 as a broader planetary story that you want to work on, even though it might be really tempting to do that right now. It would be better to choose something smaller. Take a piece out of it, a theme out of it, and you'll understand what I'm talking about as we progress more. So, but I will say the other thing about this is, if we're talking about this your energy field here, every time you go through one of these veils and you use the love and acceptance, you're going to harvest the energy, and your energy field is going to get bigger. And as you build up your energy field, you're going to be able to take on bigger amounts of collective energy, because the volume of energy that you are embodying as you go through this process is going to expand. So you're going to be like a resistance purification machine that can take on as something something much bigger, like a bigger planetary story. But it requires building your spirit, your energy field, and your ability to be a witness, your ability to go into non-judgment, your ability to go into non-resistance, your ability to process energy and to be comfortable with the uncomfortable feelings. So this is just something that to bear in mind as we go along this journey, that this over this 2 months, part of the work that we're going to be doing is building your energy field so you can take on more, so you can take on bigger storylines as we progress through. All right, so John is asking some questions here. We might actually answer some questions here. We'll take them. I think the circle backed off a little bit. They wanted to do something, but we will answer some questions. So hopefully you can all see that now better. So here's you where you are right now with your unhappy thing. Here's your energy field. It's looking a bit manky. You pop through by consuming a belief structure, by just going, I love and accept the part of me that doesn't believe any of this can work. You've consumed some energy that was in resistance just through using that process. You've expanded your energy field. Now what's going to come up is a next level of resistance. You're going to go into that layer and start to harvest the energy that's in that resistance, build up your energy field again, and then you're going to be able to go on to bigger storylines or bigger aspects of the matrix. Now, we have a purification tool, which we will be doing a lot during this, which is also going to be building up your energy field. So I'm sort of explaining this linearly, but we will be doing purifications as we go along that work on all of these levels. And you'll hear it in this big combine harvester purification tool that we use as we do the clearings as we go along here. So, all right. John, I'm not sure quite what you mean by this. Witnessing the reality doesn't necessarily mean we are part of it, though. Well, actually, here is the next principle we're going to talk about with this work that you have to embrace. You have to embrace that everything in your projectional field is you. And this is working from what we call the all consciousness. And it's a really big part of this work to move out of the perspective of the little me, which is over here. And this is little me, he's got an issue. And to move into the perspective of the all consciousness, which is the creator of everything. And in the middle, you have the witness. So here's, I should make little me even more little. So it's little. So you've got little me. Little me is the character in the stories. Little me is the part of us, well, it's really the singular egoic identity. That experiences the pain of the stories, but it's also the part of you that probably wants a different outcome. So it's also the you that is experiencing life. So again, we don't hate on the little me. It's just little me only has a little perspective. It's not that little me isn't valuable, that it isn't important. You all are, as individuals, really important. Your little me is very important, it's valuable, and that's why we just keep loving and accepting it. But it doesn't have the bigger perspective. You start to develop the witness, which has the broader perspective. As you're learning these teachings, you're learning the teachings to develop your witness, to be able to go into witness of the little me, to be able to extract energy from the stories of the little me, and through that process to access the power of your all consciousness, which is you as all consciousness creator. You are the creator of everything. When we say we are one, we are one. These are not just sort of t-shirt slogans. You're moving into the all consciousness, which recognizes that you are one with everything. Everything is you. And when you move into that perspective, again, you can change the big reality, because you're not operating from the limitations of the little me anymore. This is bending the matrix. And this can be a really, really challenging part of this work, is to accept that you are the creator of everything. You are the creator of COVID-19. You are the creator of whatever story you believe is why COVID-19's going on. The guy who ate the bat, the cabal, there's so many stories around COVID-19. It is actually a wonderful, big, juicy story to work with, and you can use any of those sub stories that that have charge. I just don't recommend taking on the actual virus itself and the physical the physical storyline, the physical illness storyline, for the purpose of this exercise. So so here is you. So let's get to this idea of projection. It's not that good a drawing. Okay, so here is your reality, and it's full of stories. It's a movie screen. It's full of stories, great stories, sad stories, the stories of your house. There's you, there's people in it, all kinds of people doing things that you like, that you don't like, good things, bad things happening, full of stories. There is your screen. It's full of stories. There's people that you're in direct contact with. There's people that you are in your community, and there's people that you see on your TV screen. There's stories that are inside of you, personal stories. What's going on with your body? What's going on in your mind? What's going on with your love life? What's going on with your career? What's going on with your feeling of your sense of self in life? All of that stuff. They're all in there in your personal stories. You've got your community stories. Oh, what's happened to Janet down the street? You know, like Janet and Brian are fighting again, you know, whatever. Like, there's the community stories. Oh, like Trevor at work is such a, you know, such a pain in the neck. You have the stories that are projected into your direct quantum reality. It's the community, the reality that you kind of directly participate with. And then there is the bigger global stories, the bigger stories where you are not actually physically participating in these stories, except in the way that you receive them. You receive them through the news, you receive them through social media, you receive them through what you read, whatever. And these stories are also the past. They're the history. They're your history. They're Janet and Brian's history. They're the history of the planet, everything that has happened on the planet ever. And there is all of the future of this story as well. And guess what? It's all coming out of this projector. And there's, I'm trying to draw, I can't draw a projector. Okay. There's a little projector, and it's projecting this huge story of everything, the story of everything and everything that's in it. And it's all you. You made it all. You are the person behind the projector. So that is you. You are creating all of it. And really accepting this is what's going to give you power to change what is displaying and what your character inside the movie is experiencing. But you have to own it all. You can't be like, you know, love and light, I just want it, like yeah, like I created all the happy stuff, but you know, whatever negative manifestations you've got going on about projections, about people, whether it's, you know, Janet's a real biatch, right? Like, and Brian's just, you know, like the evilest guy I know. He's a total narcissist. Okay, doesn't matter. They're still your creation, right? Trevor, that really super annoying person at work, it's still your creation. You have to take the deep state, the dark cabal, the dude that ate the bat, that started Corona, the virus itself, everything. It is all your creation. And you are more than welcome to stay in the screen. You are more than welcome to stay in the perspective of the story, living out the little me's story, and trying to control the story from within the film, within the movie, like being like calling out Brian and Janet and being like, hey, can you guys, you know, keep your fighting down? Like, I don't want to hear your negative energy, right? or being like, Trevor. And listen, we all do it. I mean, I'm just as guilty of trying to control my stories from the little me, trust me. But I've also learned that if you do a whole bunch of energy work before you take action, this all changes with much greater ease, much greater ease. So this, you have to take total accountability for your creation in order to be able to change it. And if you can't do that, if you're not ready to do that, if you really want to stay in the sort of, yes, but there's, there is positive energy helping us to do this work, we are in whatever, but there are still dark forces and evil forces trying to control and suppress us, you're not going to be able to harness the energy of the matrix in the same way. So that's up to you. Take it or leave it. Again, that can be really triggering to hear for people, that you have to really embrace total accountability and taking all of this on to gather the energy required to bend the matrix in a really cool and groovy way. At this point, I'm going to tell a little story, actually. So just so you know how this works, and it be not so abstract. So when I started coming into these tools, and trust me, I went through a lot to get these tools to find them, and it came from my desire to get into another reality, and I had to so I was going through this process of discovering what are all of those veils that lie between me and where I want to be, and to go through the process of dissolving the reality. But as a fun exercise, what I decided to work on, to see as I was gathering this information and as I was gathering these tools, there was a couple of things that happened where I was testing this. And one of them was this poor friend of mine, her cat went missing, right? So I was starting to get like this information about, but I mean, parallel realities have been there, obviously, in this metaphysical information for a long time. But as this material becomes more real, it becomes more conscious and more embedded in you in a deeper way. This idea of the parallel realities becomes a lot more of a tangible experience. And if people are familiar with the idea of Schrodinger's cat, that the idea is there's this cat and it's kind of missing, and depending on where you place your consciousness, the cat is it's either dead or alive. And this is like a quantum physics experiment. I'm not an expert. You can Google it, Schrodinger's cat. So as I was getting this information about that's a good, I'm going to answer that in a little bit. Yes, Beth, you did have the missing cat too. You had a missing cat. That's right. That's right. As this information was coming through. Oh my God, that's right. Beth is somebody here who's just messaged. And you were, yes, you are one. And I had a friend. So both Beth and a friend of mine's cat went missing around the same time as this was all coming in. This is so great. I'm so glad you're on this program. See validation here. So these cats went missing, and so we started using these tools, and Beth actually did a session, and we did the tools, and the cat came back, or didn't it? The cat came to I can't remember what happened. My cat and I helped with that. Schrodinger's cat came to visit at the beginning of the call. Oh, funny. So I can't remember how long after we did this work, or exactly how it worked with Beth, because honestly, I often forget personal calls, by the way, because I'm not there for most of them. But I remember that now. But a friend of mine whose cat went missing, who hadn't been doing any of this work, so this is why it was sort of Beth came back. He was gone for 2 weeks. He came back a couple of days after the session. This friend of mine who doesn't do this work, who hasn't done any of this work, who's never been on my conference calls, who's never done any one-on-one work. She's a friend of mine from this drop zone. Her cat went missing, and she was really upset about it. And the thing about the cat was, its fate was unknown. And this is the thing: when something has gone missing, she didn't know that the cat was dead, and she didn't know that the cat was alive. So um, the, the, the existence of that cat was at that point unmanifest. And we're going to talk about this in depth at a later, at another point, because this is a really, really important part of this work to become discerning. Is it manifest or is it unmanifest? So because the cat was missing, its fate was unmanifest, which meant we had the opportunity to bend the matrix and to bring the cat back into existence, to bring the cat back into, so it would be manifest back in this person's life. And my friend who was doing it was really emotional and about her cat. And I said, we've got to use this emotion to bring your cat back. And I felt a little bit like I was torturing her, honestly, because I was encouraging her to still believe in the existence of her cat. And this is something that you're going to face as well as you do this work, to have belief that you can get through those veils of illusion can be quite an emotional journey. Why? Because it's the emotion that's in the veils between you and getting to that parallel reality that you actually have to kind of go through and consume and get. And so she asked me to tune in whether her cat was still around. I felt that it was still possible to bring it back. And so I took her on this journey. And like I said, she wasn't anyone who was energetically attuned. She wasn't energetically into this at all. And we finally did I can't remember what I was doing the work. I was doing the energy work on my own to try and bring it back. And what the attachment for me was that if I could bring this cat back, it meant these tools worked. And so I had to work through my attachment on bringing the cat back as part of the matrix that I had to work with. And attachment is another really big thing that you have to deal with as you're working with bending the matrix. And so anyway, basically, to cut a long story short, her cat reappeared in a really completely random way, completely non-linear way. And it was after I did like a one-on-one session with her, but I made her do a lot of emotional work she had to do a lot of emotional work to release her resistant emotion about what the cat meant to her, what the existence of the cat meant, basically, to bring it back. So that's why I'm saying this work does require some emotional courage to do it, to be prepared to feel it. So somebody has written, and then cut a long story, another thing, the next thing I did is I decided to also see if I could use these tools to make my football team, who I love, my Australian rules football team, Richmond Tigers. And I know there's a few Australians out there on the call today. I hope there's some Tigers fans out there because I'm a mad Tigers fan. But Richmond Tigers are my football team. And they had not won a grand final, which is the big football, like the Super Bowl in Australia, in America. They had not won a grand final for 37 years. They hadn't won one since 1980. The last one they'd been in was like 1982. And this year that I was starting to develop all these tools, 2017, was a year that I was actually in Australia with my dad watching. I happened to be there at the beginning of the season, and I started sitting there watching the games with my dad, and I started running energy while I was watching the games, because I would feel like the resistance come up to them winning, and I would start working with so it was my relay, and I would start working with the energy as I was feeling it, and they started winning, and they won the first 5 games that season. They hadn't done that for years and years and years. And then I was like, I'm going to work on this as to test these tools. I swear to God, I did it. And as I was doing it, so of course, I had to feel into the team. I had to feel into the energy of the team, like how is their energy? But the day, and if you don't believe me about this, you can go to my Facebook page. My name's Georgia Jean, in case you didn't know. And you can look back, it's like August 2017. I think it was in August. At this point, they were 8th on the ladder. And so they were in the group where they could possibly make it to the finals, but they would by no means top of the ladder, by no means the top of the ladder at all. They were just in. And what I did is I kept feeling, and it's a lot of work. The other thing I'm going to say about this bending in the matrix work is you've really got to have a love to want to do all this. So when you think about the stories that you want to work on, you know, you got to have some passion about these stories, because the love is what is part of what's going to, you know, give you this passion to do it. I love Australian rules football because it's what my dad and I used to, how we used to bond, and we would go to the football together and watch it, and it's just means a lot to me in terms of my relationship with my dad. So so that gave me the motivating energy to sit and go in literally for hours into the energy field to figure out what needed to happen to get Richmond to win the grand final. And what I found was that, of course, there was, you know, how I felt about it, what this meant in terms of my tools and the stuff that I was developing it. But when I went into the energy field, the real energy that I had to work with wasn't the energy so much of the football team, but it was the energy of the fans. And I suspected this because the Richmond Football Club have a huge fan base. They have 100,000 fans, which is a lot of fans. And they love the team so much, they're so emotional about like whether the team wins or not, that I was really aware that over years and years and years, where they just really roller coasted in their performance, is that because the fans' energy, who love this team so much, every time they would lose, they would get so depressed. And like my dad, it's like the only time my dad ever cried was when like the football team lost the grand final in like 1982 or whatever. You know, they said this huge collective energy of this fan base were really influencing the fate of the manifestation of this football team. Because if you think about the volume of energy that's in like the football team, okay, so there's like whatever, there's like 32 people in the team. There's probably like 200 people in that organization, and they're all dream believing, manifesting that they're going to win this you know grand final. That they're all focused, they're all trained, they're like a, you know, well operating machine. Oh, and I got something cool to talk about them. But the fan base, when you just think about it on an energetic level, is a lot of energy. 100,000 people's energy, with their belief structures about whether Richmond could win or not. That's a lot of energy. And you can feel it if you go to a game. It's like, oh, that slump of when, you know, the team starts doing badly and, you know, whatever, like the minute they would mess up, because Richmond had this history of 37 years of just like, after being like this incredible team, just like being losing and the fans just being an emotional roller coaster. It was the fans' energy. That's what I had to go into to work with, to dissolve the frameworks of despair and hopelessness and disbelief and sadness and grief and all of this stuff, in order to shift this matrix. The collective energy that was in despair was in the fan base. It wasn't in the energy of the team. So that, but it's recognizing that my whole story about Richmond Tigers is my creation. My whole story about me and my dad loving this team, and this team being on a roller coaster for 37 years and never winning a grand final, my dad getting really depressed about it, and me, whatever. There's so much to this story. I've written about it in one of my blogs, right? But huge amounts of energy invested in it, huge amounts but when I own the whole story, I can go in and I can start to work the matrix of the whole story and change reality. And the day that I did, and I honestly probably did like 4 or 5 hours of work on the fan base. And I'm not saying you're going to have to do this much. I mean, if you know, like how much does this matter to you to have your football team win, right? But if you, and this is the same though, because I helped my friend Vicky Barbalak, if any of you watch America's Got Talent, I helped her last year or the year before, I can't remember now, with these tools so she would make it to the finals of America's Got Talent. And when we went into the energy field, yes, we worked with her personal belief structures about what she needed to do to win within herself. But I also went into the energy field of the fans, of the audience members, of Simon, Simon Cowell, of the entertainment industry, all of that stuff. And there's, if you watch America's Got Talent, and you can go back and watch, and I'm allowed to talk about this because Vicky's given me a testimonial about this. We worked with the energy of the judges, because in this all consciousness creation, again, everybody in the picture is me. This isn't about controlling or manipulating somebody. The reason why you take total responsibility for the entire creation is because then you know that the whole creation is you, and you can work with yourself, and you work with the projection. So if the projection is disbelief, you're working with your disbelief. And somebody has said this question here: if you're working with this idea of dark forces, yes, the energy of the dark forces is the dark forces within you, within your all consciousness self. You have created everything. You have created dark forces. You have created despair. You have created hopelessness. You have created the corruption. You have created everything that you don't like. You've created it, right? And if you take the ownership, you can work with it. So we worked with that, and this on because when we work in the energy, you feel in where you've got to go to find where you've got to work the resistance. And obviously Simon Cowell and the judges are a big part of America's Got Talent, and his energy kept coming in, so we worked with it and dissolving judgments, prejudices. Vicky is she's like 60 when she did the show. She's like, so there's all the prejudices about age, there's all the prejudices about women in entertainment, there's all prejudices about whether the value of stand-up comedy compared to music and dancing. All of this stuff is all energy in the matrix, and we worked with all of that. And then one of the you can go there, the next episode after we worked with Simon Cowell's energy, he was like, "Oh, Vicky, I've got the biggest crush on you. I don't know why." And I was like, "I know why you do, because what we did is we worked with bringing it all into the oneness, So everything in the projection is me. I am everything. You are all me. I am you. That's why it's worth not having it. We're going to do this in the oneness. And part of my passion for sharing this with you all is that your dreams are my dreams. And if I can help you come into alignment with your dreams, that is my dreams, coming into alignment. And if you if you donate $20 to me and I get to go and do a skydive because of that, that's me fulfilling my dreams. And we are in this together. So any resistance you feel to me or the material that I'm teaching is your resistance to yourself. And any resistance I feel in the matrix with you is my resistance to myself. And any resistance to you achieving your dreams is because you are now part of my reality. You are part of my, every name that I have seen, every person I've connected with and touched, you are now part of my little reality. So my community reality, and everybody that you are going to reach in fulfilling your dreams and getting out there and making your beautiful manifestations come through, that is part of my broader reality. And that is how we're bringing it all into oneness. So it's kind of like a really beautiful thing to get into this all consciousness perspective, and that we're all working together. We're all dissolving the resistance together. That is the point of having this crucible where we've come together to do this work. And it doesn't matter when you listen to this or when you watch this, you are already in this crucible of creation that we are forming to melt personal and collective resistance, so we can essentially come back into the oneness, which is most of why people want what they want, is because they feel it will bring them a set of emotions that we associate with being in oneness, being in expansion, connection, abundance, flow, even the feeling of achievement that you have, that even why people might like to work hard on something like that. The excitement of the expansion. When Richmond won the grand final, and yes, they did. So yeah, go to my Facebook page. I think about after I worked with the energy of the fans, it was like around August 2017, I said, Richmond's going to win the grand final. I wrote it straight after I worked with the energy of other fans. And sure enough, they did. And in fact, the day of the grand final was just, the energy was actually very neutral, because I knew, my knowingness was so strong they were going to win at that point, that that it just, yeah, it was like a no-brainer, and they actually won really easily, so I didn't have to stress out. So, woo, so that this is a lot of stuff I know to absorb. So I'm just going to have a look at questions here about being in that all consciousness. Does anybody have any questions? What is that bringing up for you? If you are on the webinar, you can type those questions in. If you have anything, I do feel the circle want to come in and do a little bit more. But these are the potentials, right? When we're talking about bending the matrix, when you take ownership of the whole kit and caboodle, and when you have the willingness to go into the energy field and to work with that kind of a volume of energy. Now, remember, I've done this work for a long time, so I have been working on the bigger energy field where I can go in and work with the energy of a fan base of, well, it's more than 100,000 people. That's just their membership. It's like millions of people, millions of people not believing Richmond Tigers could win the win the grand final. That's what I had to go into and work with. But some of the illusions that we have on in this projectional field is that this idea of the other, that these other people have all of this energy. Well, if inside the screen, yes, you're dealing with that 3D reality where they appear to be over there and I appear to be over here. But when you are out here watching the screen in the witness, it's all one flat surface. So whether something is near, meaning whether something is in proximity to me, whether it's like somebody I'm dealing with every day, like my dad, when he was near to me, so I could say, Dad, don't be depressed, because they're not, stay positive, keep believing. He was near to me. Far is that Richmond fan in like that I've never met. That's the illusion of near and far. But on the projectional screen, when you're outside of it, it's all flat. It's all my projection. That's why I can do healing work on somebody who's not in front of me, because it's only the illusion of the mind that's creating this separation, that they are separate from me and that they are far away from me. So as you go through this program, you're going to start being able to see where the mind is creating these illusions of you and me, them versus us, near and far, big energy and little energy. Even something else to think about is often we might go, okay, I'm going to throw this one in and then we'll bring them in, is that a story might be trivial, right? So this is something the mind might be going like Jan and Brian, the noisy neighbors, these are the horrible neighbors. That's just a little story, right? It's not that big a story in connection to in the context of like COVID-19, right? A big global story. It's not a big story in terms of war and conflict. Whether Jan and Brian are fighting, that's a little story, or whether I can't get on with my neighbors, that's a little story. But here's the other thing you're going to become discerning about. Does it have a lot of energy? Like if you are more revved up about Jan and Brian than you are about COVID-19, that's okay. You're going to work with that story to harvest energy, because that's where the energy is. And your mind might be saying, Georgia, like, why are you just focusing on Jan and Brian? That's not very deep or important or good or anything like that. Or why are you focusing on like your football team winning? Like that's not very, like you're putting all this energy into focusing on like something as lame as like, not deep and spiritual as your football team winning. But there's a huge amount of energy in there. I had to work with the template of humanity's despair to get the football team, right? So the mind to make the football team win. So I was doing the work on the bigger, deeper templates to create a shift in a smaller story. So that's what I'm saying. If your mind is saying, be more deep about this, or use this work for a greater good, trust me, if the energy is in a little story and it seems petty and trivial compared to COVID-19 or the wars going on in the world, it doesn't matter. If there is energy there, there is charge there. And where there's charge, there's a lot of energy and charge. There's likely planetary templates. There's likely bigger themes. It's just showing up in the smaller stories. So these are all ways that you can start to have discernment from where your mind is using judgment to say what's good and bad, what is you and me and you, them and us, using all its illusions to keep you in separation from your power, which is back here as the creator generator. Your mind's all like, stay in the story, be true, whatever. It's just doing what it does, right? So that's fine. We love and accept it anyway. So these are some of the things that we're going to touch upon and work with, and so you understand the potentials. So any questions so far on what we have talked about? No one's typing in anything. Hopefully you're all still with me. I do believe you can unmute if you want to ask a question about this, maybe, or anything else. Anyone have any questions so far? No? Not seeing that. Am I explaining this? Oh, yep. Who we got there?
Sort of a question and just a comment about the football team story, and so that I could so relate to that as you were saying that, because I just felt like my own friends are really what's holding me back, because I feel like I could just fly, but and I didn't think of this before this.
Yeah.
But that's like that. I wasn't born into a high position. I didn't think anything of myself. I was so low self-esteem. And I have all these friends who have seen me from the rise through this kind of process, and they're just like, kind of like, I just feel like a lot of them are like, they just don't expect to see me do much because I haven't done much, and so that's just where I'm at and stuff. And so maybe there's a lot of energy in there and stuff stuck.
Yeah, and that's a really great point, actually. To also go, a lot of the times when we're facing these veils as we're trying to pop through the parallel realities, you might first, as I said, face those personal limitations, those belief structures, right, that are part of your thinking, your stuff, and then you're working through them. And I am sure a ton of you who are on here have already done tons of personal development stuff. And so many people write to me and they're like, I've done all this personal development stuff and I still am not getting any results, because optimum word being personal. You're doing the personal development stuff. You're staying in working on a personal level. And you might have already well done all the personal work that you need to do. But what your mind is not letting you go to is starting to work with the bigger collective energy, because I am certain that many of you are here to help with shifting the consciousness of the planet. So you can be working on your little personal bend the matrix story, but no doubt you'll be purifying some planetary templates that are going to help to uplift the consciousness of the planet. And when you start seeing the quote unquote, the issue is you're seeing it more in an outside thing. Part of that is you saying, all right, it's time for me to claim this projection. It's time for me to work with my friends group energy. What are they showing me? Because they're still showing resistance somewhere. They're showing my resistance to my all consciousness, the all consciousness that they are me and I am them, right? I might have worked through all my personal stuff, but I'm still resisting the fact that they're me too. And they are representing, and they might, each one of those friends, and you'll start seeing, they might represent, for example, like a past life aspect that's still unconscious to you. Or if they're supercharged, and we all have those, you know, there's usually somebody who's like holding a lot of charge for us at one point, that person might be full of planetary templates. So, you know, you can, and I'm not saying that if you've still got body pain that you haven't done enough personal work, because a lot of times actually physical manifestation is planetary template stuff, and it's just deeply suppressed, but that's a whole nother kit and caboodle, and I've written blogs about that. But just know that and I say this because it's really easy to get disheartened when you've done a lot of personal development work and spiritual growth, and you're not seeing these bigger shifts happen for you, because you're just still not, you haven't got the tools yet. And that's why you're all here to get these tools to work on the planetary templates. But it is bigger levels of energy. I don't think anyone here would have signed up without a fair amount of some level of work. Yes, about this. All right, what's Lynn here? I just told someone yesterday how my meditation, I'd started visualizing that, yes, that I was behind on the other side of the holographic projection. Yes, that's right. We are. This is exactly what we're talking about. So the fun thing is working in this multi-dimensional level, though, is that you're still going to be the little me in your story. Like, I still have problems. Like, I'm still working things out, but I know that as I work with this, as I see those problems or issues, that I have all these other tools, and as I'm working with them, sometimes the quote unquote fix, the result doesn't even happen in the personal problem, but like amazing big other things happen, right? So I might be like, you know, Jan and Brian are still driving me crazy, and I've worked every planetary template I can think of. Meanwhile, on a bigger level, you know, this documentary came out on Gaia. So whatever, and a lot of people have found me that way, wherever you are working on resistance, even if you're Jan and Brian, I shouldn't say Brian is my dad's name. I'm going to get Jan's going to be married to somebody different. Bill, I don't know. I don't want to pick anyone's name. Whatever. Jan and Bill are the worst. I might keep going back to Jan and Bill in my mind, like what else? But I'm just going to keep harvesting the energy that those two characters are holding archetypally for me, in terms of some kind of planetary template that I need to resist. So they're just conveniently showing up in my neighborhood for me to see them. And if a theme that they are representing, for example, is the theme of conflict, and I'm helping to dissolve the theme of conflict within the mind, within each other, and the broader stories of conflict, which could be war on this planet, well, it is preferable for little me, Georgia, to experience conflict between Jan and Bill than to be on the front line of a war zone, right? And try and work the planetary templates while trying to survive a war situation. So a lot of people, this is just kind of going on a little bit of a tangent, but a lot of people who are drawn to this work, who are planetary healers, and are living in a reality where they have a little bit more of the time and the luxury to do meditative work, to work on the bigger templates behind these stories, to gain the access to bend the matrix, is because our consciousness is seated in a place where we can do that, as opposed to actually being in a war zone or starving somewhere. So that's kind of like another angle to look at why we do this bend the matrix work, is because every time we're dissolving the resistance between me and what I want, I'm dissolving resistance through the all consciousness. And every time we dissolve resistance through the all consciousness, we are raising the consciousness of the planet. So that's pretty cool too, right? So that's what we're going to work on in this thing. And that's why you want to accept that, this all consciousness perspective. I emailed out to everybody. In the email, there are some resources, and there are some of the different templates that we're going to do to do this work. And I asked you to start thinking about some stories that you want to work on specifically through this program. A personal story. So it could be, you know, like me and Jan and Bill, like how me and Jan and Bill going to resolve our issues. Sorry, you've got to have fun with this. Like a more of a community story, which could be, so I have the story with the skydiving. This was another story that I worked on, was that I'm a skydiver, if you didn't know that, and they were going to close the drop zone, the airport that the skydiving operation works out of. The government were going to close down that airport. And you can look at the Instagram, on my Instagram, you can see I did like a full moon meditation or a new moon meditation to save the airport. And we use these tools, and actually thanks to COVID-19, the airport is remaining open now. So that's another example of something that I use. And that was like a community story. All my friends would have lost their jobs. It would have changed my life in terms of the community that I live in, where I live, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That was a community level story. It was affecting myself and the people that I directly relate to, even more so than the football team, because the football team was something that I watched through TV, if that makes sense, right? So that was more of a global, bigger, broader quantum reality experience. I watch it on TV. I don't work at the football team, not yet. But I'm so crazy. But so a bigger global story or a bigger picture. I mean, I know the football team isn't that deep, but as I said, I ended up working with this planetary template of despair. So the only reason I say don't do COVID-19 is because there, you know, the illness part of it is part of that purification thing, where you do maybe have to go into the matrix of an emotion, you know, like that. Going into an actual illness might mean you start feeling some of the experience of the illness, right? That you want to build your energy field up more before you start like probably messing with something like that. But you could work with an element of the story, like if you're really into whatever. I don't even want to say, you know, there's so many stories around COVID-19. That's, I think, is what's really interesting about it. What if there's a piece of that puzzle that's got a lot of charge for you, that is a bigger collective story? You could work on that. Yes, and we will, question here, will we specifically be learning how to dissolve the planetary templates? Of course we will. That's what we're all here for. So yes, I will be teaching you the tools of how to dissolve the planetary templates, and there will be recordings of that. Now we're going over time. One thing, I'm going to bring in the circle just for a little bit. I hope you don't mind that we are going to just extend this probably for a little bit more. There's going to be a lot in this class. Don't be surprised if some of them go over an hour and a half. I'll try and keep it at an hour and a half, but I just think this is a super meaty subject, and like teaching bending the matrix in 6 classes is like ambitious. But do go back, use those resources that are about the authentic positivity system. At least read the book so you understand the basic principles of energy that we talk about. So we don't have to spend a lot of time on this call about that. Many of you are doing, I hope, or some of you are doing, moving on to the 5D grid, great stuff in there. The Authentic Positivity Bootcamp is great. The Monday night conference calls are awesome. Just accessing the recordings library, it's only $12.99 a month. There are a lot of clearings already in there on planetary templates. So if you've identified a planetary template, say for example, planetary template of oppression and domination, there's a recording on it already. You can just go and listen to that recording to do the purification. So you don't actually have to sort of kind of drive all of that yourself. And we spent about a year in my Wednesday night group doing a lot of major purification work on big planetary templates, big ones. So most of the themes that you're going to hit on this work And as we start identifying them, which is the big part of this work, there's probably recordings in that library that do it. So that's, you know, it's not that expensive to go in there and get a subscription to that along the way. But you don't have to. Everything is optional. I am going to bring up things that will be helpful. Okay, so with that being said, I think that is a lot of all of that. I'm going to bring in the circle for a little bit now. Indeed, dear ones. All right, good. So what we would like to do is to also embed that planetary template purification tool, the Infinity 8 tool that we speak about a lot, into your system, so you can start using the Infinity 8 tool to purify all sorts of levels of template that you see. The Infinity 8 tool purifies personal, collective, and planetary templates. So, dear ones, just imagine now coming into your heart centers. And what we're going to do is do a purification on any resistance that you may have to receiving, ingesting, embodying, and applying what you are going to receive from this training. Because this training is about purifying the belief structures that are yours personally, that are the collective belief structures, the collective frameworks, and those bigger, much bigger, broader planetary templates, what we call the grids that create creation. Just being part of this crucible means you are activating those levels of resistance. So whether you fully understand this or not, just imagine pulling all of this energy that is in resistance to you coming into the oneness that is implicit in you being seated in your consciousness and seated in the creative mastery of creating a film that is beautiful for your little me to enjoy. Because of course this is about making the world a better place, and you are part of this world. You are part of this world. And your little me is an important part, and your little me wants to and deserves to receive this experience. So just imagine pulling all that energy into your heart and running this Infinity 8 from the heart center, going up around through the thymus, which is just down from the throat and the breastbone. If you run your fingers down, there's usually a little bump there. What that is the all consciousness heart center. That is the heart center of you as the creator of everything. You as the creator of that entire projectional reality, which includes us. The projectional reality for you also extends into your non-physical realms. Because many of you are already aware of the non-physical realms. So bring all of this energy into your hearts and just begin to run it through the Infinity 8. And anything that pops up, anything at all, no matter how relevant or irrelevant it seems, bring it into the heart, run it through the Infinity 8. As we're dissolving away all the personal, genetic, hereditary, family, communal, planetary, and universal templates. All the imprinting, patterning, and programming on this energy. Held personally and collectively in the conscious, unconscious, and primitive mind centers throughout the body, all biological levels. The neural pathways, neural bundles, neural nets, throughout the nervous system, polyvagal, endocannabinoid, musculoskeletal, cardiovascular, respiratory, digestive, renal, immune, lymphatic, sexual reproductive, endocrine, exocrine, and fascia systems, all aspects connected to physical sense and perception, all aspects connected to all sense and perception. On a cellular, genetic, DNA, RNA, molecular, atomic, subatomic levels and beyond. Throughout the grids that create creation, throughout this lifetime experience, throughout all lifetime experiences, throughout all lifetime experiences where you have explored the resistance to the oneness with your all consciousness creator self. throughout your quantum reality. Throughout your quantum reality, where you're exploring the themes, frequencies, and storylines of resistance to oneness with your all consciousness creator self. Throughout all space-time dimensions and beyond, throughout your all consciousness. And now, dear ones, just drop back into your heart center. And what we are doing now is we are energetically downloading this class. Frequency first, manifestation second. You're receiving the frequencies of all that will unfold through this class. And relax your bodies. If you're starting to feel any pressure, tension, pain in your body, any kind of agitation, anything at all, just start doing that love and acceptance, this loving and accepting any part of you that's experiencing resistance to this energy, to this intelligence that's been downloaded in. And you can do a little surrender here in your heart as you're focusing in your heart. Just do a little surrender, even though where I am right now at my current level of consciousness, I don't know if I'm going to be able to bend the matrix or master my reality in such a way or do these things. I don't know how to do all of this, but I'm surrendering and I'm giving this over to the part of me that already does. And you can surrender any other sort of voices of skepticism or uncertainty or judgment or whatever. Even though I don't know how I'm going to get rid of this resistance or this part of me that thinks this might all be just nonsense, I'm surrendering. I'm giving all of that over to the part of me that does. And if you have come up with some stories, some personal and community and global stories, You can do a surrender on that, even though I don't know how I'm going to make my football team win this year or whatever it is. I'm surrendering and I'm giving this over to the part of me that does. Just relax into your hearts, dear ones. It's your heart's blueprint. Very good indeed, dear ones. We adore you all so very much until we're meeting in this way or some other way. We love you very much. And for now, we'll say goodbye, dear ones. Goodbye. All right, everybody. So marvelous. So your quote unquote homework in the easiest way possible is Authentic Positivity Systems, worth having a read. I've also included in your materials, you don't need to start filling out this thing, which is it's called the manifest to unmanifest. It's an Excel spreadsheet. Yes, we're bending the matrix with Excel spreadsheets. You can just start thinking what your personal, communal, and global stories might be. You don't have to start filling it out because that's the kind of stuff we're going to do in the class. But if you feel like you have an idea of where I'm going with that, you can do that. The other thing you want to look at is the love and acceptance exercise, and start to really use that. Really start using that love and acceptance exercise on how you're feeling, your internal states, what you see. You'll see it's all written out, and you're projected when you see, like what you like on your projection, basically, like me, loving and accepting in yourself what you're projecting into me. Just start that practice, so you start building that muscle, and also just start seeing what comes up for you as you do that. And at the beginning of the next class, if you have questions, I can't answer questions by personal questions and emails in between classes. It's too many people. So write your questions down, and at the top of the class I usually have a question and answer time, or if you are in the Facebook group, then you can put them in there. But if you save them for the class, then everybody can benefit from them, and I'm sure we're going to answer everything over the due course of time because we just downloaded it all. All right, everybody, thank you very much, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Please do mark your calendars for the dates of this show. This class. I don't send out reminder emails in between classes. I should have probably said that at the top. I'll put it in the recordings when I send it out. I don't send out reminders. I only send out emails if the dates are going to change. I just know everyone already gets so many emails, and I know I'm emailing a lot, that you'll get the email after the class, but please have these dates in your calendar so you know when to show up. And we'll see you next time. Bye.